All right. What is up, though, Lions fans? We are back. You know, the Motor City Cats back at it. Came to give you stats, not static, but whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. Uh, Today is the day where we do the thing where we talk about the San Francisco 49ers matchup. Uh, Tactical Sport 77. What up, though? Um, we may be joined by Easy a little bit later. I don't know. Trying to confirm. We'll see what happens. Usually he cannot make it on a Friday. I think just with kind of the shuffling around of the holiday season and things, he may be available, may not be available. So we'll see what happens. But the Detroit Lions will be playing the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football, and the game just might not matter. Well, okay, here's the thing. Yes, we heard about that game. So here's the thing. It's a game that we need to win regardless of what happens with the Minnesota Vikings. I almost called it the Minnesota Dolphins for reasons I don't understand. Okay. It may not matter as far as the 1 seed if the Minnesota Vikings beat or lose to the Green Bay Packers. So what we're looking for here, obviously, is the Green Bay Packers to beat the Minnesota Vikings. Is it going to be easy for them to do? It is not. Okay. They've already lost to the Minnesota Vikings once this year already, and that was in Green Bay. So now Green Bay has to go into the unfriendly confines of Minnesota and try to go ahead and gut out a win. So here's the thing. I believe that the way this thing plays out is that if the Green Bay Packers win out and the Minnesota Vikings lose out, that the Green Bay Packers would be a higher wild card seed than the Minnesota Vikings. I believe that if the Green Bay Packers beat the Minnesota Vikings, then the Minnesota Vikings have no chance at the NFC North or the 1 seed. I believe the Minnesota Vikings must win out. However, I don't think that the Lions can then drop 2 straight games, like 1 to San Francisco and then 1 to Minnesota. So I think you have to have everything. You have to have at least you have to have at least the San Francisco 49ers win. So it is an important game. It is not meaningless for us. But if the Green Bay Packers can understand the assignment and they can beat the Minnesota Vikings, then I think the Minnesota Vikings do not have a snowball's chance in hell of getting the 1 seed. The Detroit Lions would know that they have to now beat the San Francisco 49ers, and then they lock up the 1 seed, and week 18 doesn't matter. You can see Hendon Hooker and Teddy Bridgewater or whatever the case may be in that game. Good evening, Phil. Good evening, Just a Fan. I'm glad you guys can make it. All right. So with this scenario happening, I guess we can also mention the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles will be without Jalen Hurts as they go head-to-head against the Dallas Cowboys. But one thing is that they will be in Philly. It is backup quarterback on backup quarterback. It is Kenny Pickett versus Cooper Rush. Listen, I think that the Eagles are out of the Derby for the number 1 seed. So that's good. But knocking them down another peg would be good as well. it's a rivalry game. The Cowboys are also going to be without CeeDee Lamb, so it's going to be tough sledding for the Cowboys, even though they are playing against Kenny Pickett. But they've been playing better football recently. Their defense has been playing better. They've been winning games, maybe some games that they shouldn't have won, games that they had no business winning, things of this nature. So it is what it is. They are going to be playing for something, some sort of seeding or whatever the case may be. But all of that to say that the Detroit Lions are very much so in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed. It is currently theirs to lose. All they must do is win out, and they will have it. It doesn't matter what happens against Green Bay with Minnesota. It doesn't matter what happens against Philly and New York with against the Cowboys and the Giants with the Eagles. None of this matters. The only thing that actually matters is the Detroit Lions win football games. You continue to win, you are going to be the number 1 seed. You already are, and it is yours, and you will not lose it. So that is our path. Phil says it should be a decent game. Do rivalries mean anything more? Yes. What they mean is, because they're divisional rivalries. Now, if you're talking about, the Patriots and the Colts, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, no, that doesn't mean more as far as the standings. But because the Eagles and the Cowboys are divisional rivals, then by beating the Cowboys or by beating the Eagles, the Cowboys have a direct effect on what happens with the Eagles and their playoff seeds and all these other things. Obviously, we know that the Cowboys were eliminated last week mathematically. It was going to be really, really difficult for them to actually get into the playoffs anyway. But last week gave them no option, just like the San Francisco 49ers are officially eliminated. But just because they're eliminated doesn't mean that we should sleep on them, that we feel like it's going to be a cakewalk or whatever. It is an NFL team. They are playing for pride, and they're trying to play spoiler. This is a team that we lost to last season, and we know we lost to them, and they know that they beat us, and they know that we've got revenge on our minds, and they're not just going to roll over and allow it to happen. So, oh my God. If Deebo Samuel can catch a football, okay, you might be on to something, but I don't think you are. Hold on. All right. Who thinks Packers will beat the Vikes? It's gonna be a tough game, man. Like I was saying in the beginning, the Packers have already lost to the Vikings, and they lost in Green Bay. So it is not a situation where it's going to be easy for them to do anything. All right. So let's look at a few things that the 49ers have done. The 49ers make roster moves ahead of week 17 versus the Lions. As we know, or I think we know, Trent Williams is out. Okay, he will not be playing against the Lions. So they have signed an offensive lineman. Who is it that they signed? Let's see. They signed. I'm just trying to scan the article because I had his name before. All right, I guess I have to more so read it than scan it because I'm not finding it. They announced that Trent Williams has been placed on injured reserve, so that's shutting down his season. They also shut down Dre Greenlaw. Fred Warner was glad that they shut him down because he said that he injured, his calf trying to come back too quickly from the Achilles injury, and we know he suffered the Achilles injury in the Super Bowl as he was kind of just jumping around on the sideline and getting ready to come back in. He jumped up, came down, and tried to run out onto the field, and it went. So it was one of those freak injuries, but he came back before it's usually at least a year for an Achilles. He came back about a month or so, maybe 2 months short of a year, and he injured his calf. So that was that. So the corresponding moves, the 49ers signed offensive lineman Matt Hennessy. How did I forget his name? Matt Hendog. Um, from the Atlanta Falcons practice squad. He's played in 45 career games with 22 starts. The team also announced offensive lineman Sebastian Gutierrez will be assigned to the San Francisco practice squad. I mean, that could matter. He may be brought up. Yeah. So that's what's happening with the 49ers as far as those roster moves. They also may have Gorindo. Let's see. Yeah, so they've signed. I'm sorry, Gorindo. They've obviously got some situations to think about with Brock Purdy. Yada yada yada. All right. Yeah. So here it is. The Gorindo injury update. Obviously, Gorindo is like their third string running back. They've got some injuries at running back. We know Christian McCaffrey is out, blah, blah, blah. It appears to be on his way back. Per 49ers reporter Nick Wagoner of ESPN, Thursday, Gorindo became a limited participant in practice. Safety Jair Brown ankle also joined the running back on the limited list. Gorindo has been dealing with a foot hamstring ailment. He hasn't seen action since the December 12th meeting against the Los Angeles Rams. Gorindo carried the football 16 times, but netted only 57 yards in that 12-6 loss to the NFC West rival. Gorindo has handled 73 carries for 381 yards and scored 4 times this season. All right. So yeah, that is the injury front for the San Francisco 49ers. So it's George Kittle set to play. Brock Purdy is set to play. Brock Purdy is not having the greatest season. What up, though, Big Wolf status? Pound the Pavement says Green Bay announced they will be sitting players. That is crazy. Hold on. Let me see if I can confirm that, because that makes absolutely no sense. Green Bay, excuse me. Green Bay still has something to play for. Jordan Love isn't great against the blitz and the Vikings blitz a lot. Listen, if this is true, hold on, man. Let me see if I can find any reports on this, because if this is true, this is the ultimate need investigation move. Because I said before, I was being funny. I was like, oh, they're in cahoots. Okay, so they're not sitting players. I was about to say. uh Yeah, Jair Alexander. So let's look at the injury report. Jair Alexander is out. Jair Alexander, he missed both of the games against the Lions. So he's been dealing with injuries all year. I think like knee injuries, knee, ankle. It says the Green Bay Packers will play without two members of their starting secondary, cornerback Jair Alexander and safety Evan Williams. Both of those guys missed the games against the Lions. Evan Williams was in the game against the Lions, and then he tried to go head up against Jahmyr Gibbs. And to put it lightly, he effed around and found out. Hold on. Let me make sure. See what's going on here. Let me pop you guys out. We have 16 viewers and 10 likes, so it's a better ratio. Make sure you smash that like button. I know if you're talking, you're subscribed. That's not an issue. So just make sure you smash the like button, and let's get that popping. Share the stream, all these things. Let's see. All right. So I don't know that Easy will be coming in. Like I said before at the top of the show, usually Fridays aren't good for him. But we try to shuffle some things around. So the Packers are not sitting players. That would have been wild. As I said, the Packers still have something to play for. It's going to be tough for the Packers. Set your expectations to the Green Bay Packers are not going to beat the Minnesota Vikings. And the Week 18 game is going to be for all the marbles. It's going to be for the division, and it's going to be for the number 1 seed. We've been picking against the Vikings all season. We've been watching them win games that they should have lost. And whatever the case was, whatever the reason why they lost, they should have lost to last week. They should have lost to the Seahawks. And Geno pulled a Jordan Love and didn't understand the situation and tried to force the ball downfield when they had time. Their kicker missed a 60-yard field goal at the half, which no one expected him to hit a 60-yard field goal, but it's a kick that NFL kickers can make, and he was short by about 5 yards. They should have lost to the Cardinals. The Cardinals kicker got a case of the Justin Tuckers and forgot how to kick. So there was a lot that could have happened with the Vikings. There was a lot that we thought that should have happened. They should have lost this, they should have lost that. But at the end of the day, they are a good team, a very good team with the same record as us, and they find ways to win. They just didn't beat us, which is the reason that we are in the situation that we're in. Had the Minnesota Vikings beat us at home, right, at their home, in their house, then they'd be in the situation that we're in. They'd have the number 1 seed, and they'd be at the top of the division, and they would have to beat the Detroit Lions to keep that. Okay, the roles are reversed, right? We beat them in their house. Now they're coming to our house. They want to get some get back. They're in the division, and they have the number 1 seed and the division to play for. So this is not a game that's going to be easy. But we can't overlook the San Francisco 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers are a good team. The San Francisco 49ers are playing for pride. The San Francisco 49ers, much like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but the Dallas Cowboys, will be putting up a fight. And what do I mean by the Dallas Cowboys? I'm not talking about when we played them. I'm talking about last week when they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went into Jerry's world probably thinking that we're playing an opponent that has been eliminated mathematically from the playoffs. They don't have anything to play for. We're going to walk in here. We're going to do what we do. We're going to play Bucs football, and we're just going to win the game. That wasn't the case. That's not what happened. They lost 26-24. Again, there were games just like the game against the Bengals that the Cowboys probably should have won. There are the mindset of these teams, and this is what we have to remember. The San Francisco 49ers are 6-9. They're eliminated. There were games out there that they feel like they could have won. Okay. Let's not make the same mistake that we made with the Bills. The Bills, we made the mistake of looking what they did last week against the Los Angeles Rams and thinking, I for one, did this. I thought that their defense was going to come out the same way and look the same way, not taking into account the competitive fire that burns inside of them, not taking into account the fact that the reason that they probably lost to the Rams is because they were looking ahead to the Detroit Lions. So if they're overlooking teams to get to you, what kind of energy do you think that they're going to come out with against you? Now, the San Francisco 49ers last week in Miami against the Miami Dolphins, we're not overlooking the Dolphins. They're not in a position to overlook anyone. They are the ones being overlooked. They're not in the playoffs. But they got handled. Are the Detroit Lions a better team than the Miami Dolphins? Absolutely, 100%. Offense, defense, special teams, everything. Better team. The Miami Dolphins are holding on by a thread, and they are desperate. And this is why I believe that they were able to pull out the win against the San Francisco 49ers. Other than that, I don't think the Miami Dolphins would have won. It wasn't a high-scoring game. Neither offense did a whole lot. It was kind of a defensive struggle, but that's what happened. Now the San Francisco 49ers are lining up against us to rematch the NFC Championship game. Who wants this game more? You would think that it's the Detroit Lions, but you might be surprised. It might be the San Francisco 49ers. This people, and I say this because I'm just telling you the truth. This game is a trap game. Okay. This game is a trap game. Now, what's going on, Paul Thomas? Don't try to kill out this. Have the Detroit Lions fallen for the trap game in the tenure of Dan Campbell? I would say no. We don't fall for the trap games. But it is a trap game. I'm just telling you, there's a trap and it's been set. So we have to make sure that we don't fall for it. We can't sleep on the opponent. They're not going to sleep on the opponent. The benefit that we have is that this game has been circled. It's been circled on the schedule since the schedule came out. And then we went into Dallas and we took a team that maybe we didn't know that they were going to like implode throughout the middle of the season, but we didn't care, right? I think it was 42-6 against the Dallas Cowboys, 49-42, something like that. It might have been, was it 49 or was it 42? I feel like it was 49 because I really wanted to put 50 on them. But that is also the game where we lost Hutch. And for 3 months without Hutch, we didn't lose a single football game. Okay. We lost one against the Buffalo Bills. We got back on track against the Chicago Bears. This is a game that we need. Okay. We cannot afford to stumble. We can. To be honest, we can, right? We can afford to stumble, but that's not what you want to do. What up, though, J-Rod? So let me welcome some other people in the chat. J-Rod is here. Brent DeWitt is here. Paul Thomas is here. Big Wolf Status is here. He says, if Green Bay wins, the Lions better not slip up on the 49ers. And this is what I'm trying to wrestle with, right? The Lions need to win this game. If the Green Bay Packers take care of business and they beat the Minnesota Vikings, I keep wanting to call them the Minnesota Dolphins. If they take care of business and they beat the Minnesota Vikings, then it is the ultimate choke job if you can't beat the 49ers. But the other thing is the 49ers get paid too. Now, Brock Purdy don't get paid that much. He might not be driving a Benz or a Beamer. I mean, Jared Goff is. Brock Purdy, what is he? 17-10 this season, 17 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. With a cast of characters, Deebo Samuel is out. Not Deebo Samuel. Sorry. Brandon Ayuk is out. Christian McCaffrey is out. Trent Williams is out. You got George Kittle and you got Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel has had a case of the dropsies. Whatever the drama has been in the locker room with Deebo Samuel and him tweeting out things like he's not struggling, he's just not getting the ball. And then when you throw him the ball, he drops it. But he did have a resurgence last game. Was a very good game for him. There are a lot of things out there that I'm just trying to wrestle with when I'm trying to formulate my opinion of this game. My opinion of the game, we need it. We got to have it. What's going to happen in the game, I do not know. I do not think that the San Francisco 49ers are going to come out and roll over and lay down. I don't think that's going to happen. I do not think the San Francisco 49ers are going to come out and not look like an NFL team. But I think the will and the determination and the motivation for the Detroit Lions is going to be very high. I think that if the Green Bay Packers do beat the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota, then I think there's going to be like a collective sigh of relief that week 18 will mean nothing if they go out and handle their business. The one good thing that we do have about playing on Monday night is that we will know what has to be done. We will know what the mission is. We will know what the assignment is. And we will know we either have to win this game and that's it, or we have to win this game and the game next week. So that's the advantage that we have. No one is scoreboard watching during the games. No one has to think about what's going on in Minnesota during the game because we will already know. But it's never going to be easy. It hasn't been easy this entire season, even with the 13-2 record. It is still looking like it's going to come down to week number 18. I don't have faith in the Packers. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, let's get to some of your comments in the chat. I don't think there's a single Niners fan that thinks that they are about to blow out the Detroit Lions. They didn't blow us out the last time we played, and that was the NFC Championship game. Now their team is 6-9 and ours is 13-2. Their team's not going to the playoffs. Our team is definitely already in the playoffs. We're just trying to get the number 1 seed, which we have in our control. So, yeah, I don't think that's happening. All right. Belinda Brown says, are you confident with the Lions cornerback group? I'm confident that we can cover Jawan Jennings. That's really their only real outside receiver. So I'm confident we can cover Jawan Jennings. They've got Deebo Samuel. I think the George Kittle situation is going to be more so Brian Branch, Ifeatu Melifonwu, Kirby Joseph, Jack Campbell. They've moved Amik to the outside. Anybody that was looking for Kendall Vildor last week, you didn't find him because he didn't play. Okay. They moved Amik to the outside. I think he had a very high PFF grade for being moved to the outside. he may be more comfortable on the outside. This is where he was playing with the Raiders. The Raiders briefly tried to move him inside, and then they drafted Nate Hobbs to play slot, and he played slot, and Amik was on the outside. The game sealing interception where he jumped the route and jumped in front of Christian Watson against the Packers when he was playing for the Raiders, he was the outside corner. Okay. So with Terrion Arnold and Amik Robertson, the Bears having a better receiving core than the San Francisco 49ers, I'm confident with the group that we have out there. I know that was a long answer, but I had to talk through it. Eric DeLong, what up, though? Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFL. I think we're locked in for the number 1 seed. Well, we're not locked in yet. Like, we have the number 1 seed, but there's still some things that have to play out. We may have to win these last 2 games to retain it, or we may just have to win the game against the San Francisco 49ers. We'll have to see what the Packers do. J Rod said, I heard Mosley is a GOAT. Yeah, he played last week on special teams. You don't really want to see him out there having to play corner. Maybe he spells someone or something, and someone gets nicked for a few plays, he goes in. But yeah, he played special teams last week. Eric DeLong, do you think that Jared Goff will be able to compete for an MVP? As much as I love Jared Goff, and as much as the Josh Allen hype is out there, and of course they throw Patrick Mahomes' name in just because he's Patrick Mahomes, it's Lamar Jackson's award. This is number 3. This is back to back to back. I mean, if you're looking at Lamar Jackson and you can't understand the fact that his numbers are better than Josh Allen, and you can't understand what he's doing, I would love for Goff to get it, but it's Lamar Jackson's. Jordan Love and Sam Darnold, the Lions' biggest threat. Yes, because they're in the division and they're in the playoffs. Divisional games are already hard, and then you've got playoff games which are harder. So it's a doubly tough situation to have 2 of your divisional opponents in the playoffs, and you may have to face both of them. Those might be the 2 games that you play, unless they play each other to get to the NFC, to get to the Super Bowl. Let's see. Celine says, in for the like button, and I'm out. Catch you later, though. Appreciate you, Celine, 313. Kay loves to say I ignored the comment, but I just read it. From yellow last week to green this week. Can you imagine if our defense was healthy? Yeah, that's the issue, man. That's the issue. The Lions have always dealt with a lot of injuries, but I think that this year is just it's crazy. It's craziness. See, Arturo, that just goes into our argument about the quarterbacks. This award is not Josh Allen's award. I'm sorry. And the Ravens just need to win next week and they'll win the division. Yeah, they beat the brakes off of Buffalo and Josh Allen. It was like 35-10. So, in a head-to-head matchup against MVP candidates, Lamar Jackson, resounding win. Motor City Chef. That's where MCC is. This year has been the worst regarding injuries and guys on IR for sure. Yeah, it's 100% been pretty bad. The Lions need to use Vaki more on the linebackers. I think you're going to see a healthy dose of Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, their linebackers are Fred Warner, and company. We don't know who company is. You know, like I said before, they shut down Dre Greenlaw. He rushed himself back. He had like a calf injury when he came back, and it was like only a few plays. I think it was like after 4 plays or something like that. So they shut him down. What's that dude's name? Devon Campbell. But I mean, that is the worst crash out. One of the worst crash outs in the history of football. I mean, you crash out because a guy goes in, he gets injured 4 plays later. You've already walked off the field and quit on the team. You don't go back in the game. You get suspended. They were going to release you, but they suspended you for conduct detrimental just so you couldn't, because I don't think any other team would touch you, but just so you couldn't latch on to another team and play the final 3 games of the season. So yeah, it's Fred Warner and co. Again, Motown Mitch, it's if we're looking at the numbers, you know, Lamar Jackson has the numbers. He's got the passing numbers, he's got the touchdowns, he's got the rushing, he's got the entire total package. Hope Lamar doesn't choke in the playoffs again. Well, see, Phil. So if we're being honest, okay, this is a question that I want to ask everybody. Based off of our track record, if we are being honest, would we rather see Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl or Lamar Jackson in the Super Bowl? Before you answer that question, just think about our history. And think about what Lamar Jackson did to the Texans. Think about what Lamar Jackson did to Danielle Hunter. Yeah, so Phil says Mahomes, J-Rod says Mahomes, right? Because you guys are being honest. Justin Fan says my homeboy. You know, Eric DeLong, my man's married, got 2 kids already and 1 on the way, so I can't really go with that one. Now, if we're talking about his brother, that's a different story. Big Wolf Status says they can keep Gibbs in, just saying, in 5 wide. I mean, you know what I would really like to see Ben Johnson incorporate is more 2-back sets that puts pressure. I don't mean like, yeah, I mean 2 running backs, not like a fullback. 2 back sets that puts pressure on. Yes, let's spread out Fred Warner, because Fred Warner is going to go cover Jahmyr Gibbs when Jahmyr Gibbs runs out on a route in the backfield. But who's going to cover Vaki? You know, this is the thing. I don't even know the other running backs or the other linebackers on the 49ers team. J-Rod says love Lamar but hate playing Lamar. 100%. That's all I'm saying. You know, love Lamar but don't want to play him. You know, I want Lamar to have so much success in the AFC playoffs, but when it comes down to the AFC Championship game now, You, you know, it's like I don't know about that one. Like I want him to win the wild card round. I want him to win the divisional round, and I want him to face Patrick Mahomes. Like so, I don't care what the wild card round is, but in the divisional, I want it to be Allen against Lamar. I want Lamar to beat the brakes off of Josh like he did in the regular season. And then when it comes to the Super Bowl, I want it to be Lamar versus when it comes to the AFC Championship game, Lamar versus Mahomes. Um, and here's the thing. Here's the thing. Make it Lamar makes zero mistakes. Okay. And it's 35-28, and you give the ball to Mahomes with 20 seconds left, and he does what Mahomes does. Because I want to see Lamar do well in the playoffs. I do. I'm a fan of Lamar. I love watching Lamar play. What he did to the Texans was criminal. It was criminal. Motown says JG and Lamar are very similar in numbers, just Goff had more wins. 100%. Some payback on Lamar would be nice, as long as it's payback. At the end of the day, I don't care who we play. Like, if we make it to the Super Bowl, as long as we win it, I don't care who we won over. Okay. Now you get to the Super Bowl and then you play Lamar Jackson and you don't win, and you're like, I wish that we didn't have to play him. You understand what I'm saying? But Artur, Goff is not going to win the MVP. He's not going to. He's also played similar opponents to Lamar Jackson. One of them he threw 5 interceptions against, but one, and Lamar it was 31-2 against that team. And the other one he lost to, and Lamar and his team beat the brakes off of the Bills. So now when you look at, similar opponents, that's also something that they're going to look at. If anybody were going to get, Goff is too far down the totem pole for him to get the MVP. You've got Lamar Jackson, who should be the number one favorite. Look at his numbers. His numbers are better than Josh Allen's numbers. He's got 46. He's got 46 total touchdowns, bro, and 4 interceptions. Nobody's doing that. He's got to win next week, and he might throw for 2 more and run for 2 more and finish with 50 total touchdowns. If Lamar Jackson finishes with 50 total touchdowns and 4 interceptions and 4,000 yards passing and 1,000+ yards rushing, which he's already there, if you don't give him the MVP, you're drunk. You're drinking. You're also high, and it's heroin. It's the hard stuff. It ain't, it ain't the light stuff. It ain't something slight. I don't think Eric. I don't think Saquon should win the MVP because, one, I don't think he breaks the record in 16 games. I don't think he breaks it against Dallas. He's got to get 268 yards next week or this week against Dallas. I don't think he's going to do that. So when you say, oh, you're giving him the MVP because he broke the record, he didn't break the record. If you break a record that was set in 16 games, then I respect it. If you break the record in 17 or 18 or 19 or 20, I don't respect it because it took you more games, right? That's not a fair comparison. I did something in less time than you, right? This is why the whole debate with Jordan and LeBum, it's null and void. Like, Jordan did everything in less amount of time than it took for LeBum to do. Like the whole thing, they're like, oh, if he gets another championship, bro, Jordan had 6 cracks at it, and he got 6 championships. LeBum has had 10. He's got 4. If he gets 11 or 12 cracks at it, and then he gets 5, how are you putting him in? Oh, well, he surpassed Jordan as the GOAT. How? How? It took you 12 attempts to win 5, and it took this man 6 to win 6. And his career was 13 years. LeBum has been playing for what? Was this his 21st season or something like that? This doesn't add up. So I wouldn't give Saquon. I know that was a little, I went off the deep end, but I wouldn't give Saquon. I wouldn't give him the MVP. Let's see. Yesterday, the Bears Seahawks was 6-3. No touchdowns were scored. Are Bears fans still barking on social media at 4 and what are they going to be? 4-13? They got to play the Packers next week. J-Rod, you just trying to figure it out. Big Woolside says, I think the Bills are going to lose in the first round. I mean, depends on who they play. I don't see anybody in the AFC playoffs who are going to beat the Bills other than the Ravens or the Chiefs. I just don't see it. Devil's lettuce. Whoever's voting on it, like I said, whoever's voting on it, if Lamar Jackson finishes the season with over 4,000 passing yards, over 1,000 rushing yards, 50 total touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, even if it's 5 interceptions, even if he throws one next week, there is no way in hell a single person should be voting for anyone other than, I love Jared Goff. Love him. That's my quarterback. That's my quarterback. That ain't fair. That's my quarterback, right? I love him. Not the MVP. Not the MVP. Not because who's beating those numbers? Who's beating those numbers? They're universally pulling for the Lions to win the Super Bowl because they want Ben Johnson. that's why they're pulling for the Lions. It looks really good for them. Oh, he just won the Super Bowl. And also, they've heard the rumblings. They know that if Ben Johnson doesn't win the Super Bowl, he just might not leave. So they're pulling out all the stops in their copium. Yeah, you said Bears are in deep trouble because Caleb Williams is no leader, mostly an egotistical whiner, in my opinion. It's the whole fingernails thing. That's why, most people think that he's not a leader. I don't know that he'll ever be able to lead. The one thing that he does have to stop doing is painting his fingernails. I think he painted his fingernails like for the first game or whatever. So it's got to be a commitment to not having that type of distraction while also being committed to getting better. Caleb Williams really just needs the right coach. he's got to have a coach that will. So here's when I knew that, because I knew I was gonna say this before when we were talking about the Bears, but just because you brought it up, this is when I knew that the Bears were not going to do anything this season. When I saw the Hard Knocks clip of Matt Eberflus talking to him after the first preseason game, and he said something, and he was like, "So what does that tell you?" And Caleb was like, "That practice is harder than the games." He was like, "Right, practice is harder than the games." I was like, "You clown buffoon ass." Like, how are you, an NFL head coach, telling a rookie after the first preseason game that, yeah, practice is harder. That's why we work so hard in practice. It's harder than the game. So he set him up for failure right there. I knew. So after our season is final, Goff or Hooker will leave. I don't think either one of them leaves. There's no path for Hooker to leave unless he is traded. And then if you're looking at, like, okay, so you have to look at the situation for the draft. At the top of the draft, you've got the Jags. Maybe either the Jags or the Giants are number one. Okay. The Giants, I believe, should be number one. They're just really that bad. So you got the Giants at the top, you've got the Jags in the middle, and then you've got the Raiders on the bottom. So that's 1, 2, 3, right? Raiders and Giants need quarterbacks. The Jags, again, I am not a Trevor Lawrence fan. They just gave all that money to Trevor Lawrence. He's being paid off of potential. I guess he did win one playoff game. That was more on Brandon Staley than it was on Trevor Lawrence, or Trevor Noah, as I like to call him whenever I'm talking about the Jaguars. Notice how I said wars and not wires. You see how that works? Wires is not a thing. Anyway, what would the Raiders give the Lions for Hendon Hooker, as opposed to just staying where they are and drafting the quarterback who's not named Shedeur Sanders? Okay, because the New York Giants, depending on their strategy, I don't believe Shedeur is a number one overall pick. And I guess it's more so him playing at Colorado, which I think in the next 5 years, this is not going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing slightly, but not as much as it is now. With Colorado being a smaller school and then not playing against the best competition, and they won a lot of games this year, but I don't know. I don't know if you want to give Shedeur the keys to your franchise. Then there's Dylan Gabriel, who I believe is coming out. Do you believe he's the second quarterback that you should be taking off the board? I personally would take. That's tough. I don't know. You take Dylan Gabriel over Hendon Hooker, and at least your fans can stomach it. If you're now, okay, no, Travis Hunter's not going to make it to the third pick. If the Jaguars are second, Travis Hunter is going to be in Jacksonville, and he's from Florida, so he probably like that. All right, let me get back to some of your comments. I know that was a long answer, and I didn't really answer it, but I don't know if you think that you can get another piece with the number 3 pick, and then you can trade the Lions another first round pick somewhere, or a second to get Hendon Hooker. Maybe, I don't know, but Hendon Hooker is still being developed in the NFL. I guess he has a head start over whatever rookie quarterback you would bring in. So there's that. So I mean, catch 22. If they offer up a package and Brad Holmes takes it, he takes it. See, Artur, I don't know if it's an out of respect thing. I mean, Aaron Rodgers sat behind you know, Brett Favre for 3 years. It's not a bad thing but Hooker is just older. I guess that's why everyone's clock is accelerated on Hooker. But it's not a bad thing to sit behind an MVP caliber quarterback and learn for 2-3 years. So they're not going to trade Hooker to the Giants. If the Giants have the number 1 pick, they are picking Shedeur Sanders. See, you guys are talking about people that are kind of at the top of the draft. I don't know where the Jets pick is. I think they're now down in the 10s or something like this. I don't know. Do you believe it, if you're in the scouting department, do you believe that Hooker is better than quarterback X? And that's pretty much what it boils down to. The giraffe with long hair. We're talking about Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, tactical sport. Goff's not leaving because the only way that you could think that Goff would be leaving is if you were 100% sure that Hendon Hooker is ready, and he's not. We know this. We know he's not. Cam Ward, right? Yeah. Do you take Cam Ward over Hendon Hooker? I do. Right. He's younger. He doesn't have any injury history. Like I get it, but it's someone that you can shape and mold, and he's a clean slate. If it's the Raiders and their franchise, their fans, they're gonna want you to pick Cam Ward. They're not gonna want you to pick or trade for, again. But that also depends on who else you can get. The Raiders pretty much knocked themselves out of contention for the number 1 spot in the draft because they beat the Jags last week. He's a wasted pick because he's 27 in January of 2025. So here's the situation. And this is what an NFL GM has to think about. Jared Goff was a gift to the Detroit Lions. I'm not a Matthew Stafford fan, never was. I think we were all briefly Matthew Stafford fans after he came back in and threw a game-winning touchdown with a separated shoulder. But if Matthew Stafford walks out of the door in that trade and they don't bring in whatchamacallit, Jared Goff, then you're looking at David Blau and Tim Boyle. You're in a situation, if you don't draft a Hendon Hooker, you're in the situation that the Raiders are in. Where they had Gardner Minshew, Aidan O'Connell, and Desmond Ridder. None of those quarterbacks gave you an opportunity to actually be serious. Gardner Minshew is a great number 2. He shouldn't be your starter. He should be the guy that when your starter goes down for a few plays or a week, he should be able to come in and right the ship, steady the ship, maybe win a game or two for you. But to be the starter for the entire season, that's not Gardner Minshew. So taking a risk on a guy that was in serious contention for the Heisman Trophy, and then he gets injured, and you pick him in the 3rd round, is just the kind of move that I want to see my general manager make, because we hope that Hendon Hooker doesn't have to play. We hope that Hendon Hooker is damn near 30, okay, when he finally has to play, if Jared Goff, because, maybe there's a decline or whatever the case may be. But to have your succession plan right there, and you had to draft him with in the 3rd round. I mean, look at what the Packers did with Jordan Love. Again, it's a bit of a different situation because they were pretty much ready to move off of Aaron Rodgers, but I would rather do the Bill Belichick thing and get my quarterback too early before it's too late, instead of too late. Joe Milton is in New England. Again, Martin, you got to give him until year 3. All these guys that you thought maybe they didn't know what they were doing, and they picked them, and then year 3 came, and it was like, oh my goodness. If he popped in year 3, I mean, obviously, if he was more so dealing with injuries instead of lack of ability, but they drafted Broderick Martin as a project. They drafted Manu as a project. So we got to let the project, and when we say project, we mean developmental project. So we got to let the development kind of, we got to let the development marinate a little bit. Yeah, I mean, his age is his age. I mean, I guess he was 25 as a rookie. What's the cutoff? 24. Where you would say, okay, I mean, generally, what a rookie is going to be. Let's say if you go at 18, you come out 4 years, you're 22. So he was about 3 years older than what you could have expected. It depends on what you want, Artur. It depends, right? It's not always what it is. What makes the most sense. It's also, can you sell Hendon Hooker to your fan base and pass on a Cam Ward, who's exciting, who is dynamic, and this, that, the third. Then this is what I'm saying. The smart move would be to trade for Hendon Hooker, but what are you also giving up for Hendon Hooker? Are you giving up that number 3 overall pick to trade for Hendon Hooker? Right? Because if you do that, and then you let Cam Ward go somewhere else, and then Cam Ward is balling, and maybe it's taking Hendon Hooker a little while to get his legs underneath him or whatever, then you have another poop show like the Raiders always have. Well, y'all just want to get rid of Hooker, bro. See, Artur, again, you got to understand context, my guy. I didn't say that the trade was going to happen. I said, had it happened, then they'd be in a similar situation that the Raiders are in. This is why I was saying I don't think Hooker was a wasted pick. Okay, because we're talking about future situations. Why on earth would we get rid of Rodrigo? All right, Justin fan. We'll see you later, my guy. Yeah, that was my point. There's a lot of unknown with Hooker, and there's a lot of unknown with a rookie. You know, neither one of them has much NFL experience, if any. Hooker's experience, he's thrown like a couple passes and handed the ball off against the Jaguars and the Titans. Height deficiency. What is height? That would be great for Hooker to get playing time in the fourth quarter of the 49ers game. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that happen. And I'd love for the Green Bay Packers to beat the Minnesota Vikings and watch Hendon Hooker play for the entire game on in Week 18. You know, because at a minimum, you have to believe that if the Lions go into Week 18 with everything locked up, other than to get people certain, here's what I hope. I hope J-Mo goes over 1,000 yards this week. I hope that the San Francisco 49ers lay an egg. I hope that the Green Bay Packers beat the Minnesota Vikings so that there is absolutely nothing to play for. And then you're getting guys like well, shoot, we don't have many receivers, man. Khalif's practice window has started. I think he was a limited participant in practice today. Don't know if they're designating him for a return this week. I know they're designating him for return. I don't know if he's going to return this week. But so you got Khalif Raymond. You got, I wouldn't even say Tim Patrick. You know, if you're trying to find receivers, we don't have a lot. So then again, you know, you're not really seeing what Hendon Hooker is doing because he's not playing with anybody. Just like in the preseason, he wasn't playing with anybody. So he was playing with Caden Davis and Doris Fountain and Maurice Alexander and, you know, these people. So need to get Teddy Two Gloves some reps. I guess. I mean, I want, that's what I want. I want Jared Goff to be sitting over there in a baseball cap and some sweats. Amon-Ra St. Brown, J-Mo, you know, Jameer, all of them, you know. Who's 5'10"? Who are we talking about? I missed that part of the conversation. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. It is Saturday for me. So generally, I don't go work first because it's Saturday, but after the podcast, I go out and get a little bit of work done. Oh, Rodrigo being 5'10" doesn't matter. He plays like he's 6'3", 6'5", and he's a dog, and they love him. And it was a big blow when he went on IR. So this is why I'm saying we're not getting rid of Rodrigo. That's just not happening. Everybody thought that he wasn't going to be on this team during training camp. I don't know why. I kept trying to tell people that Rodrigo wasn't getting cut. and it turned out we needed him throughout the season. We needed him later in the season, and he's on IR. So, nah, I don't think we get rid of him. Kraft loves him, as in Robert Kraft. Hutchinson has said, he keeps telling people in the facility that all they need to do is to get to the Super Bowl and he'll be back. So I think he'll be healthy next season for sure. All right, guys. Like I said, I appreciate you for coming through. For the new people, I'm glad that you came through and you subscribed, and I hope you had fun and enjoyed yourself. The great thing I think about my show and my channel is I don't have to stick to a script. If the chat wants to talk, we can talk. We can chop it up. We can debate. We can agree. We can disagree. And I think it just gives you guys a very, very interactive part of the show. So you guys are a huge part of the show. Make sure you subscribe. Well, you've already subscribed because I've got subscriber modes on only. Make sure you share the stream. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you let everybody know that the Motor City Cats are back at it. We came to give you stats and not static. And I can't tell you what to do, but if you want to take my advice, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. And we are out. Peace.